Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Straight Up Christian Podcast. I'm your host, Blair, and I'm so excited for today's conversation. I hope you all enjoyed the last episode about identity and you got some truth in that episode, and maybe it helped you out a little bit. If you have not watched it, there should be a card on the screen that you can press in one of these corners if you're watching. But if you're listening, if you just go to my show on whatever platform you're watching it on, you should find it there. But also, before we get started, I am in my bedroom again at my house. I'm not at school, so that means that I have a lot of animals and family members and friends walking around in my house. So if there is a little bit of background noise, please just ignore that. And today, our topic is on contentment. I am so excited to talk about all the different ways that we should be content in our circumstances. But anyways, let's jump right in. All right, y'all. Grab your snack, grab your coffee, put your comfy clothes on. I have my panda fuzzy socks on, and you probably can't see them, but just know that they're very, very comfortable. So go ahead and get cozy while we get started in this conversation. And I always like to tell y'all why I'm talking about something. So why contentment? Why do I want to talk about being content and whatever? Well, in all honesty, I was really struggling coming up with a topic for this week's episode, which is a situation I find myself in a lot more than I thought I would, because as someone who loves to talk, I was like, yeah, a podcast? Psh, easy. I can talk all the time. But in reality, coming up with a topic to talk about every week every other week for me is a little bit hard. So I was asking my boyfriend, I was like, what do you think I should do this podcast on? I don't know what to do it on. And he was like, naming all these things off. And I ask him this all the time. And most of the time he says stuff. And I'm like, no. And so whenever I ask him, he's like, well, I'm just not going to say anything because you always say no to whatever I say. But I was like, no, just tell me what you think. And he said, well, what about contentment? And I was like, that's a good topic, Gav. So I decided to go with it, and I was like, wow, look at him, man of God. Speaking of, we need to get him on the podcast soon, but he is very, very scared and nervous to come on. So if you want him on the next few episodes, comment, let's think of something. Comment, get on here now, Gav. Or actually, a better one would be, quit being scared, Gav. Yeah, that's good. So, anyways, and when he said that, I was like, that is such a good topic, because I feel like our society today struggles with being content. And I'm pretty sure I used this figure of speech. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I did the same thing when I used this metaphor, analogy, whatever it is, last time I was telling this, because y'all, I'm not an English girl. I'm going to ministry school, okay? English is not my thing. So whatever it may be, metaphor, simile, whatever, I think I used this in my Should Christians Partake in Self-Love episode. The example of kids and toys. Kids can never be content with the toys that they have. They always want this thing or that thing, the next thing. They get the toy they've been begging and crying for a month, and then they're begging and crying for another toy, and it's just a whole thing over and over and over again. And We are exactly like that. We look at kids and we're like, why can't you just be content in what you have? But we can't be content in what we have either. We want more money. We want the new car. We want the new clothes. We want the new shoes. We want this. We want that. We want that. Da, da, da. Whatever you're chasing after, you probably have some discontentment there too. I'm pretty sure that's a word. But also, if you see me looking down or scrolling down, it's because my iPad is right here. If you're watching, obviously you can see that. If you're listening, you can't. But I just wanted to say that for the people watching, so you don't think I'm just like coming forward and doing something weird and looking down at something weird. That's my notes right there. I'm not sure if y'all can see them. I don't think you can. But so what is contentment? Well, I looked it up, as I always do, and it is the state of being happy or satisfied. And we can all be like, well, that's easy. I can be happy and satisfied. Maybe not all the time, but I can be if I have fill in the blank. I can be content. I can be happy. I can be satisfied when I have the job that I want, when I have the house that I want, the husband that I want, the kids that I want, when I have the car, the clothes. No. All the things that we want. And I'm not just speaking to all of you. I'm speaking directly to my soul too, because Lord knows I need Jesus and I need to learn to be content in my circumstances as well. So we can often think, yeah, I can be content. It's not that big of a deal, but I can be content when blank, when I get blank, when I have blank, whatever. But in a very popular verse, we hear a lot. It's Philippians 4:13. You hear it all the time, right? It's on all the sports team things. It's like, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Like, Christ gives me strength to beat that team in football, bro. Yeah, they all use it out of context. But that's okay, no hate. You use that Bible verse and you win. You win with that Bible verse. I'm just making a joke, y'all. Please don't get upset. Anyways, but what y'all don't normally hear with that verse is the first two verses leading up to it. So I'm going to read them to you. Philippians 4, verses 11 through 13 say, I'm not saying this because I'm in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret to being content in any and every situation. Whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want, I can do all things through Him who gives me strength. That's the context of that verse. So, this verse shows us that we are meant to be content in all circumstances. All circumstances. And being content when we're not in a hard season is like, yes, Lord, I am so content. Thank you. I'm just chugging right along with life. Everything's going all hunky-dory. It's great here. Like, I'm so content. But as soon as something pops up and everything feels like it's going downhill, it's like, I am not content. I am not content at all. I want everything to change. I do not trust God. I am moving on like, no. But we see Paul here telling us that he has learned to be content in every situation. Whether in need or having plenty, he is content because of Christ who gives him strength. And I wanted to point that out because contentment seems like something that is so easy, like, yeah, I got that. I'm thankful, grateful, thankful, blessed. Amen. Like, I'm thankful. But really, are you content? Like, is the place God has put you in right now enough? Or are you constantly searching for more? And I'm not just speaking to the unbeliever. I'm speaking to you, Christian, watching this podcast, who has been walking with the Lord for years, yet still feels discontentment because they're chasing after the wrong thing. You can love God, you can be in relationship with God and still be pursuing the wrong thing. And like I said earlier, I'm preaching to the choir here. Like, hello, I do that too. I want things that I don't have. I am not content all of the time. I want to, y'all, if y'all were my friends and y'all had to hear me, the amount of times that I tell them, I just want to be married. I just want to have kids already. They are probably so tired of me. And I just need to learn how to be content in the season that I'm in right now. And let me get off my soapbox, y'all. But I just wanted to point that out because I think a lot of the times we can listen to things and be like, oh yeah, that's for that person or that's for this person. No, honey. Mm-mm. Got real close to the mic for that. This can be for you too. You might need to hear this too. You might need to be reminded to be content in the place that God has you right now. So we all need to learn to be like Paul. We all need to learn to be content in all circumstances. So how do we do it? How do we become content in every circumstance like Paul was? Well, number one, we have to trust. We have to trust God to be God. And this is not only hard for the unbeliever, but hard for the Christian at times too. Because sometimes God's plan seems like it's here, there, and everywhere, and all over around, and we just can't figure out what He's got going on in our lives. But again, another common verse. I'm using a lot of common verses here, guys. Romans 8:28 says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. God is not in the business of failing. He is not going to fail you. He works for the good of those who love Him. If you want His plan for your life, He will give it to you. If you want to go astray from that plan that He has for your life, then you can. You have free will. You have the choice. You don't have to go the direction that God wants you to go. And honestly, there are going to be times, even as Christians, where you go a direction that God doesn't want you to go because we are sinful. We fall short and we sin. So, but when it comes to the ultimate scheme of things, the plan for your life, if you are pursuing God, you're following God, you're not going to mess that up. He has a plan for you. It's all going to work out for the good. You just have to trust that He's got you in the palm of His hand. What's that song? It's like a kid's little rhyme. He's got the whole world in His hands. I think it goes like that. Anyways, another verse I wanted to share with y'all is Proverbs 16:9. In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. When we begin to question whether or not God's plan is what we want for our lives, we have to remember that it is what is best for us. We plan our own course and the Lord establishes our steps. Like, no matter what we do, He's establishing that. And ultimately, He is in control. And that brings me to my next thing of how exactly do I become content in my circumstance? Number 2, give Him control. Jesus, take the wheel literally. Give Him the will to your life. John 15:5 says, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. But apart from me, you can do nothing. We can do nothing without God. Guys, we can do nothing without God. We can either get everything we want, everything we dreamed of, the house, the car, the followers, all the things, yet constantly be pursuing more because we're not content and because we're walking outside of the will that God has for us, outside of God's will for our lives. Or we could be walking in His will. We could be content. We can be trusting Him, trusting that He has control. And I wanted to share an example of this for you because before I became a Christian, before I fully surrendered my plan for my life to God, here was my plan. Blair wasn't going to be in full-time ministry. Blair was going to be a teacher. And she was going to marry this big old country guy who loved to drink and cuss and do all the things. And God literally said, no. Not happening. And when I say big old country guy, I'm not talking about an actual guy. Like, that was my dream for my life, okay? So before y'all think I'm, like, janking on somebody, I'm not janking on anybody. That was my dream for my life. And I could have walked in that. I could have continued that. I could be in school right now to become a teacher. I could be dating somebody who is not as amazing as my wonderful boyfriend. But I would be searching for more. I would probably become a teacher and then constantly be like, gosh, what in the world? Why do I not feel content in this? Why do I feel like I need something more? Okay, so if I walk through that, I'd probably be thinking, okay, well, I just need to get more money. Okay, well, now that I have more money, I just need to get a new car. Okay, well, now that I have a new car, I just need to get a new house. And I'll be content. I'll be successful in the eyes of the world, right? But God said no. God said no. God said, you are going to be in full-time ministry. And I was like, what? Full-time ministry? That's not for me. But God said it. And I trusted him, and it was not what I wanted. I did not want to give up that control for my life, but I did. And now the fruit that has come from me giving that over. Now I go to the best school ever, Highlands College, and I have met the best people. I am led by the best people. I go to the best church. I have the best boyfriend. Like, God has blessed me all because of a yes. All because of a yes. And I've given him that control. The next verse that I want to share with you is Matthew chapter 6, verses 33 and 34, which say, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. And I love this verse, these verses, because it kind of wraps everything up that I struggle with in a neat little bow. Like, speaking to myself here, Blair, seek his kingdom and his righteousness. Don't seek all of these other things that the world is telling you you should have, this makes you successful. Don't seek that. That's a lie. Seek his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. Does that mean you're going to be a millionaire? No. That means that the Lord's going to provide for you. He's going to be there for you. And the second part of that, don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Y'all, I cannot tell you how much I am a worry wart. Call me Worry Wanda, okay? Because if one person is going to worry about something, it's me. And if you know me personally, that's the truth. Even before I became a Christian, I was a worry wart, okay? I was the girl that's like, don't go too fast in the car. Don't do that. I'm scared. That was me. Still am. Still scared of things. But this is telling me, do not worry about tomorrow. Do not worry about what 5 years down the road has to hold, because let me tell you something. Your idea of what your life is going to look like in 5 years is most likely going to be completely different than what you think. And that's okay. Give that control to the Lord. He loves you. He wants the best for you. He works all things out for you, okay? Trust him in that. Because if we are constantly chasing tomorrow, we will never live in today. We have to learn to be content in every moment that he's given us. The moment I'm in right now, sitting here filming this podcast with my messy room, needing to pack for Disney, I have all these things I need to get done, but guess what? I'm sitting here filming this podcast because I'm living in this moment. I'm not worrying about all those things over there that I need to do. I'm living in this moment right now so that I can post this when I'm in Universal. By the time y'all see this, I'll be in Universal, living it up, But I'm doing this now because this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what God has for me right now. And that was just a little tiny example, but I hope you get the point. We have to quit chasing tomorrow because we will not live today if we are so worried about tomorrow. The last thing that I wanted to share with you all is that being content is not being comfortable. Those are two different things. We should strive to be content. We should not strive to be comfortable. Because here's my question for you. Do you think that Paul was comfortable when in those verses that I read for you in Philippians chapter 4, he said, I've learned to be content when I'm in need? Do you think he was comfortable when he was in need? Probably not. He was in need. He needed stuff. He probably wasn't that comfortable. But guess what? He was content because he knew it would all work out for the good of those who love Christ. He knew it would all work out for him in the end. Being content is not being comfortable. There are many seasons in your life. Let me tell you right now, I'm not even 20 yet. There's been so many seasons in my life where I have felt so uncomfortable, yet I have been content because I knew that God's plan for my life was going to work it all out. I knew that I was walking in what God had called me in, and that wasn't really going to be the most comfortable all the time, but I felt a sense of contentment because I knew that I could trust Him. And an example that I wanted to give you, which I already used this example, but whatever. I was so uncomfortable when I knew that I was called to full-time ministry. I was so scared of what my family would think, what my friends would think. I was scared of how much money I was going to make, because if you know anything about ministry, it gets the rap of, they are poor and make no money. All that. And I was so nervous and scared and uncomfortable. But let me tell you, when I found that out, it was like a burden was lifted off my shoulders, because I was like, oh my gosh, now I know what I'm supposed to do with my life. Hello? Like my whole life, I always felt like I didn't know what I was going to do. I think I might have touched on this in my testimony episode. I'm not 100% sure, but like I did not know what I was going to do. I wasn't good at sports. I couldn't dance, couldn't sing, wasn't the brightest in the room all the time. So I was like, I don't really feel like I have any talents to do anything. So that's when I was like, I guess I'll just be a teacher. I mean, I love kids. I'll just be a teacher. But then God said, no, you are going to teach men and women about Jesus. And it was like, burden lifted off my shoulders. Something I'm passionate about, something I love to do. I mean, look at what I'm doing right now. Filming this podcast, teaching you about Jesus, hopefully. I was uncomfortable in that, but y'all, I was so content because I was like, finally I know what I'm going to do with my life. And I felt the same amount of uncomfort when I started this podcast. Y'all, I'm not famous. I don't have 15 million followers. It is not a normal thing for someone who doesn't have well, I guess it kind of is, but like most of the time you see a celebrity who start a podcast, it's like, that's kind of expected. But for me to start this podcast, I was very scared and very nervous, and it is a lot of work and behind the scenes and keeping up and trying to post and doing all the things. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of commitment. And I was very uncomfortable when I started. I was like, I don't know what to do. Talking to a camera seems kind of strange. I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to do these things. Uncomfortable. But the Lord said, do it. And now I'm doing it. And I love every second of it. I am content in what the Lord has given me. And that is my prayer for y'all, is that you would learn to be content in whatever season the Lord has you in right now. Because those transition seasons are so hard. The transition of, I don't know what I'm going to do, to, I know I'm going to be in full-time ministry. That transition of being uncomfortable, of being, I have zero clue. I know I'm not supposed to be a teacher, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do next. That's uncomfortable. But you have to learn to be content in that uncomfortable uncomfortability. Is that a word? I don't know the word, but you get what I'm trying to say. And that's my prayer for y'all, that you would learn to be content in every season of life, in the hard seasons, trusting that God's plan for you is the best plan, better than you could ever imagine, because He loves you and He wants the best for you, and He is just the best God ever. All right, y'all, that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I love you all so much. Be sure to check in for our next episode. It will be posted on July 15th at 12 a.m. I post at 12 a.m. so that you can listen to it anytime on your way to work, while you're getting ready. If you can't sleep at night, you have something to listen to. And if you are not already, make sure you go and follow the Straight Up Christian Podcast on Instagram. It is at Straight Up Christian Podcast. I love you all, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.